I don't like rework. Rework is not my friend. I like to do something once and then have it done. Well, good morning. I notice I've got a little bit of a cough this morning. Maybe the coffee will take care of that. Just brewed a fresh pot. Thought I'd come out here on the deck. Rose is over helping Brandy do some farm chores. They're getting ready this weekend to take my eldest granddaughter back to college, which means they'll steal my truck. Yeah, but she'll leave me with the Kia. And it actually carries a fair amount. And carrying a fair amount of bins and boxes and inventory leads into the conversation this morning. Last night I finished putting up a video about that commercial auction that sells, Connex boxes and building kits and sheds and the material that you can use to build your own workspace, because I think having a workspace, especially a dedicated workspace, is important for efficiency. The other thing to think about is how to organize that space, how to outfit it. And that same commercial auction that we watched to talk about workspaces also had a whole group of items that fall into another category of how to save money, how to set up your business, how to get discounted items that can help you run your business. In the last video, we talked about using commercial auctions to get storage sheds, building material, and complete building kits. But what else might a commercial auction have that the reseller can use? And I'm going to kind of focus in on three different areas. The first being setting up the new building, or the new room, or the new house, whatever it is you have moved into, or to revamp what you currently have. And when you set it up, furniture and fixtures. Do you need a lot of shelving? Do you need work tables? Do you need a packing bench? My current packing bench rolls around. It's about 5 foot long. I don't move it anymore, but it's a few feet deep. But it came as part of an auction lot. I bought 4 of them, actually. Sold 3 of them. Kept the one that looked like it was going to work out the best for me. And the other 3 all had shop tools mounted on them. Grinders, little drill presses, that type of thing. So I stripped the tools off, sold those separately, and then sold the benches, the work tables. Kept the one I liked for my own packing bench, and it moved out to the lake here with us. You can drop an awful lot of money into buying things like desks, shelves, office chairs. Then once you've got your space set up, you got to fill it with inventory. So you're going to need some sort of storage system, bins, boxes, random containers, or if you're the type who likes to store on open shelves, the shelves themselves. I personally like to keep the dust off the objects so that when I go to get one to ship it after I've sold it, I don't have to do as much re-cleaning. I don't like rework. Rework is not my friend. I like to do something once and then have it done. So if you like to store your items on an open shelf where you can see them and enjoy them, you don't need bins, obviously, but you're likely going to need some varied shelving, more and varied. So you got your fixtures, then you got your packing materials. And the last item, what is the last item? I wrote 3. I'm still looking down here at my notes. Oh, consumables. Things like ink toner cartridges, shipping labels. And even though of the 3, it's probably the smallest group of things you'll need to store, having a place to have an adequate supply of those items on hand is useful. And every once in a while, those items come up at that same commercial auction. But your chances of finding, say, the right toner cartridge that fits your printer, a little slimmer. But you're more likely to find an entire printer than you are to find packs of paper or refill. But I have bought reams of printer paper at auction before. Usually they come as somebody's office when they sell the contents of an office. It'll include however many reams are left from a case that they probably picked right up at Costco or Office Max or someplace like that. That leads me into the next comment, which is auctions. Auctions have fascinated me since I was a kid. I've probably told the story how the neighbor's dad worked for an auction house. So it's always got me. The word auction is exciting because in many respects now, as an adult and as a business owner, as a small business owner, auctions represent a way to stretch my dollar, to extend what I can get at a value price. You've probably heard the old saying that if you sit by the riverbank long enough, you'll see the bodies of your enemy float by. Well, if you attend enough auctions, you'll see pretty much anything you need or want float by. The problem is the timeliness. It's not like the Walmart shelves where you go down there and as long as the item's not seasonal, you can pick it up, day in, day out. And when it is seasonal, pretty much every spring, they're going to restock with those items. Other stores, Home Depot, Target, Walmart, that's where a lot of people go for their consumables. Or these days, the internet, having it shipped to your door. Especially since COVID, we've changed the way we buy, and we always think of ourselves as frugal. But we have a tendency to settle on where something is sold with a decent value and then go back there first to see if they still stock it. And if they do, and the price is still the best one, or the terms of service, because it's not always just about price. Sometimes it's about the delivery schedule, the available quantity, that type of thing. We'll go right back to the same buyer. Sometimes if they restock it, like a Walmart, then you just keep buying it. In fact, Rose has a couple things on subscription. She's figured out how often she uses it, and they send this mix of toppings for our salads. They come in a case pack, and the case pack arrives about once a month, and then we've got a regular supply. She doesn't even have to order it. She's put in the commitment to buy one a month, and it arrives. Comes in a nice box too. I reuse the box and ship it out. But I'm getting a little off track. So you've got your building, you've got your room, you've got your space, or you've got your dining room table, and you need to be able to outfit it. Well, that same commercial auction, I filmed some footage same night that I filmed the buildings, I filmed the rest of the auction, and took a look at items that would be of particular use, or could be of particular use to the reseller, depending on what you sell. If you are selling larger objects, they have things like hand trucks and pallet jacks. If you're selling smaller objects, they have shipping supplies sometimes, organizers, that type of thing. They also have a host of hand tools. They routinely sell things like tape guns, or if you need a cordless drill to assemble or disassemble whatever you're selling, they get those things too. But what else might a commercial auction have that the reseller can use and save some money acquiring? Now, a lot of these places these days, they get the material right from shelf pulls at places like Costco and Home Depot. So we think of them as places to get discounted name brand tools, but there's an awful lot of other things. Some of these auction houses are big enough and they buy truckloads. So you'll see the same item offered month after month after month. So if you're trying to match shelving, for instance, here's a shelving unit down here, chances are pretty good that if they've got one, their auction actually has more, and next month they'll have another group of even more. Now this is the first time I've seen this particular offering. It's 40 linear feet of heavy-duty shelving. It's like the gorilla racking you see in places like Home Depot. But they have at least 2 listings in this auction for this stuff. $820, that's about what you'd pay for a single section. But just because it's at auction doesn't mean it's a value. So you have to think about what it costs retail, is it available in your area, and what are you really saving, especially if you've got to rent a vehicle to go pick this up. But here's the fixed wagons that have become popular when people go to places like swap meets. They've also got the folding wagons. Of course, turn your tractor into a forklift if you've already got a tractor. All right. We mentioned that you can pick up shed kits, metal or poly. Here's an entire wall of matching shelving. If you were to put a workbench right here, you'd have a pretty good wall of storage for your shop. Safes, another common item that comes up at auctions. This one happens to be a gun safe. Clothing, work clothing, protective clothing, gloves, boots. Boots, of course, would have to be available in your size, but sometimes they get a whole pallet of these in, so you'll see the boots show up at different sizes. And most have a preview, so if you're concerned about fit, you could go try them on if it's not too far. Window air conditioners. Keep your cool space while you're working in it, or pop it right through a wall. Organizers. Auctions are a good place to get organizers. And like I say, a lot of these come right out of the same stores. So if you want to get this organizer and then go hit the Home Depot to find the different accessories that go with it. Cargo straps can often be a good place. But be careful, because you could end up, by the time you pay the fees, being over what you can get them for on sale with a coupon at a retail store. Folding carts, truck hitches, spotlighting for your photo area. Shelving. Always have lots and lots of shelving. Lifting equipment. Here's one. This one happens to be a chain hoist for those heavy items. Fatigue mats. And here's another folding cart. This one, the price is $15. Let's see what the last one was. $15. But sometimes if there's space far enough apart in the auction, the one at the end might go for less. Of course, it might also go for more if somebody else was waiting. Storage racks. Oh, here's one of my favorite. Boxes of coffee. Can't be a reseller unless you've got an energy drink or a boost of caffeine of some sort for those long days. My preference is coffee. You might like tea. Here's a smaller safe. Here's a side work table. But you can see you can outfit a space. A reseller can outfit much of their operation. Here's a Rhino cart all-terrain mover. Moves 2,000 pounds. All-terrain. Move those heavy objects from where you're picking them up to your vehicle. Sound-absorbing material. If you need to keep the sound of the kids isolated while you're filming or working. Commercial cleaning gear. Yeah, that's a very popular item. Here's a trash can. Same concept. But just because they sell it at an auction doesn't make it a good value for you. It begs the question of how far would you go to save $1? Probably not very far, depending on how many of those items you needed and how many dollars you were saving. But how far would you go to save $10,000 or $2,000? You know, would you cross your state to do a pickup at an auction if what you got at that auction saved you $10,000? More people would consider that. But it's a personality makeup thing. Some people won't consider buying a used item for their own use. Some people won't consider buying a store return or something that's been marked salvage because it had a stigma. Of course, as the years go by, places like eBay come online selling used goods. That stigma has significantly lessened in my life. But it's a question you have to ask yourself. You know, to acquire stock, to acquire fixtures, to get a truckload of consumables, how far will you travel? We travel nearly an hour to get the free shipping supplies, which I've featured in an earlier video. But the end result is many faceted. It keeps it out of the landfill, and we get it at a price, which is the fuel and the time to go get it. We get it at a very attractive price. So we've built that right into our routine, into our schedule. But you have to ask yourself, because only you can answer this, is, you know, how far will you go to save money? And then, of course, the next question is, are you the type of personality, maybe a little OCD, where all your shelves have to match? Do all your desks and workstations have to match? Do you only feel good working in an environment where everything is color matched, organized, came out of the same catalog? Well, then an auction may not be for you, because what you're likely to find at an auction is a given number of similar items. And next month there may be more of the same similar items, or they may have moved on. It's kind of like why I mentioned Costco originally. You know, some of their big ticket seasonal items, like kayaks or sheds, they change vendors. You know, their buyer, nationwide buyer, looks around, buys a certain number of units. Once the stores have gone through those units, he looks around and he makes another buy. Is the same item available at the same deal? Maybe, maybe not. If not, he moves on, or she. You know, I'll always say he or guy. I don't know whether it annoyed my daughters as youngsters or not, but they were referred to as used guys. So used guys collectively. That's men, women. It's whatever the group mix is made up of. They're all used guys. We tease Rose about that expression because being from Michigan, somehow she grew up, and it's not you guys, it's use guys. Use guys. If your items need to be functional but not match, an auction can be a good place to spend pennies on the dollar. Now, they don't have it every month, but this same auction house is where I get my rolls of corrugated packing material. It's where I get a lot of my empty boxes, because they get bundles of surplus boxes in from moving companies or places like Home Depot or Lowe's. Sometimes they've been bought by an individual and then it wasn't all used when they moved, so they take it to an auction house to dispose of it. Other times it's coming right in from the store's distribution warehouse. I also get a lot of plastic bags for like t-shirt bags for putting my product in. I sometimes get bubble mailers or bubble rolls. I've gotten cases of packing tape before. The trick is to make sure you're watching to make sure the value is there. Office desks, a more deluxe hand truck. I have the folding ones for the car, but I actually prefer a full-size one for working around or taking the truck. I think they just simply function better. All right, I'm going to get us back down to where we were. Larger, heavier shelving. Another one of those moving carts. Work tables, computer tables, or packing tables. Now here's something that comes through the auction routinely. These are cabinets like kitchen cabinets, and often they're mismatched. But if you want to paint them or you don't care if they're mismatched, you often pick these up for $5, $10, $20 per unit. Some of them are still boxed. But once you end up with them, they also sell the countertops. We'll find some a little further down. Fatigue mats, flooring. If you're working on a concrete floor and you want to snap some laminate together, be easier on your feet. Portable fatigue mats, more permanent flooring. Shop lighting. Floor protection for your carpet. Fans and heaters, portable fans and heaters, a big item that comes through the auction. And remember, almost all of this is new stock. Maybe a store return, maybe an overstock, a shelf pull, but the condition of it is not like going to a farm auction and everything's used. Outside canopies, step ladders, good place to get your step ladders. Here's one of those countertops. You get some of those base cabinets, you get some uppers, you make a countertop, you've got a whole work area. Calendars, really deluxe hand trucks. And of course, here's a flat cart. This one happens to be a scissor lift cart, so you can go from moving it at a low position to releasing the scissor, and the item comes up to a more comfortable height to move it to the work surfaces that you're at our waist height. All right, here's another one of those welded steel garage storage systems. So you get 2 or 3 of these that all look the same. You can outfit your whole garage. Another air conditioner. You can even get your toilet here. And I'm watching this one from my daughter. It's a goat milking stand since she raises goats. So there you have it. This is an item. These are just fun sometimes to buy them and see what you can make from salvaged parts. I mentioned that they get truckloads of things in. Well, when they test them and they see that they're obviously damaged or don't work, incomplete, maybe have a broken wheel, an open box, they'll stack all that stuff on one of these pallets. Anyway, they usually every month have 2 or 3 of these pallets. And I have on occasion bought one just to see what I can make from it. But you can see the price of these is climbing. You're paying $55 plus fees at a shot at making some money. It's not really a good business model, but it can be fun. So that is the commercial auction. And like I say, they run in my area. This one runs about every 3 to 4 weeks. In your area, maybe something different. You may have an auction house that specializes in used commercial and industrial equipment. And I tell you, if they build it for use in a factory or in a commercial environment, it can be well worn and still have a lot of life left in it for use around your house, and you can pick it up at a very good price, pennies on the dollar often, and it can give you great service for years to come. All my shop carts are that way, and I've had an assortment of shop carts over the years. This place has sold me pallet jacks before when I've needed them. I buy it, I use it, I do the job, I'd take it right back to them and have them resell it. Or I'd run an ad through something like Facebook and sell it locally, because there just aren't a lot of them on the used market in some area. Interestingly enough, and if you go back far enough, you probably know this, eBay started off as an auction site, primarily for used items, because that was the concept, is we're going to sell used items on eBay via the auction format. These days, only a small percentage of the items that are listed on eBay are sold at auction format. Almost everything is buy it now, but it wasn't that way. And as I said, when I was a kid, auction, that was like the word circus. A circus is coming to town. Oh, there's an auction. When I retired in 97 and needed to outfit many aspects of our life and get ready to build a house, replace tools, buy building materials, that's how I ended up returning to the auction environment. And I've stuck with it, ever since. It's been nearly 30 years. And a significant amount of what I outfitted my house with, the bling that's around in Rose's yard, in her gardens, the gazing balls, the trellises, much of that came from auctions. But auctions have changed. It used to be auctions were predominantly to clear the estates of deceased, businesses that went bankrupt, those who needed to move cross country or leave the country itself and go overseas. They'd liquidate their assets, and one of the most efficient ways to do that would be at auction. But first we saw the progression of retail into big box stores. The Walmarts, the Home Depots, the Lowe's, the Targets, the big chains. Of course, in my youth it was Sears and JCPenney and whatever the anchor store at the mall was, even though we didn't have a mall. But if we traveled far enough, the mall. And now an awful lot of merchandise is franchised or sold through these big retail box stores. And the current approach to their return process and their overstocks and their seasonals are shelf pulls. They simply palletize them, send it off by the truckload to some clearance warehouse, and it gets sold either as they receive it or it gets repackaged and sold. But what that means is if you can find the item in a big box store somewhere, it will probably show up at a local auction. Some auctions specialize in this. They're buying the entire truckloads. They're buying Connex boxes. The commercial auction that I showed you with buildings is getting Connex box size loads of these mini excavators in from somewhere. And they're selling 20, 30 of them a month, in a relatively small city. So it makes you wonder, is the market strong enough to carry that, or are they going to see a decline? And that is another aspect of auctions. I used to work at one, obviously, but I used to have a consignor who would bring in items. And he was one of those early pallet tool buyers. He would end up with a whole pallet of the same tool. it was a shelf pull or overstock or an excess run off an assembly line. But he would end up in serious quantity, a whole pallet full of something like, say, the same circular saw. And he would bring them in by the dozen, 6 of them, 8 of them each month. And he was killing his own market because they weren't scarce. You know, the crowd looked at him and they just, oh, I won't bid high. I won't bid up the first one. I'll let somebody else bid high and I'll pick up the third or fourth one. Well, occasionally that backfires because oddly, sometimes when you have multiple things, even if they're Connex boxes, the last one will actually sell for more than the previous ones, because at the end, everybody who's watched the first one sell and didn't bid, thinking the price would come down, ends up having to pay more. Or if you've got a reseller of Connex boxes in the crowd, he may very well buy every one of them at whatever the price is, that first bid price. Because if they're choiced, which is an auction term, and there's 6, 8 of them sitting there, and he sees value in, and that's his stock and trade, yeah, he wins the bid. He may turn around and tell the auctioneer, I'll take them all. I'll run the count. Auctioneers love that. Saves them time. And the crowd, now I'm assuming this is a live auction, but the crowd sees that happening, and pretty soon they watch that guy. They're like, hey, if that guy's bidding, I better get in on the bid too, because he's going to take them all. But that's a side note about managing auctions. So the question is, if you're outfitting or rearranging your workspace, because over time, many resellers change what they sell. If you start with that advice where you sell the surplus from your own life, you know, you take stuff out of your own cupboards, closets, shelves, you're gonna clear that. So then you got to look around and decide, well, from that first experience of selling, what did I enjoy? So you may narrow down, you may niche in on a particular aspect that you tried out and decided that worked well. I got good money for my effort. It wasn't hard to ship. I didn't have to worry about items being broken in the mail. I like this category. Well, once you know the kinds of things you're going to sell, that will somewhat dictate how you get your fixtures and what kind of fixtures you need. If a person's going to store in bins rather than open shelves, you need shelves that are adequate to size the bins you've chosen. So I don't particularly go along the line that everything in a shop needs to match. I certainly don't go along the line of all the bins need to match. I size my containers based on the object, the weight, the size. It does me no good to put, say, big puffy coats in a standard size plastic bin, because I'd only get 1 or 2 of them in that bin, and I'd be filling up space. So you have to kind of watch some videos, talk to people, or figure out for yourself which storage method is good for the stock you're going to keep on hand. And then you begin setting it out. And I'm an opportunist, so once I know what I'm looking for, I watch for it to either come up at an auction, new or used, come up on a clearance sale at the end of season. Maybe Costco's clearing out all of a particular brand of shelf. And if you've got the pockets are deep enough and you can go in there and they've reduced something even 40%, if you can get enough of it to outfit your space, then that 40% is 40% saved, as long as you're not having to travel too far. If I was asked the question about what I would want at the lake in relationship to my business, my location now, much smaller than the old location, buildings are much smaller, my energy level is much smaller, but my mental process, my muscle memory, if you will, still thinks like a big reseller. I was always a bulk buyer, so buying in excess is probably my single biggest negative about the way I run my business. I can't process things fast enough, so they accumulate, which means, of course, my number one desire would be for more space. Now, this is a double-edged sword. I don't want to build more buildings. For one thing, I don't really have the space to build more buildings. Which brings me around to the idea of efficiency with storage. For one thing, if I price items to sell faster, maybe take a little less margin, my sell-through rate will increase, and the storage in the building space I have now will be more adequate to the task. The aisles themselves won't have the last few auction loads stacked in them, obstructing my access to the storage. That's one issue resellers face routinely. If your eyes are bigger than your ability, you will have a storage problem. So I say my number one want or desire would be to have more storage, but it's impractical. I'm kind of capped at what I have now. So the alternative solution is to more efficiently store what I need to store. And to that end are some considerations. I've got rafters, and these auctions sell racks that hang from the rafters in the ceiling, and you can put objects up on them. Now, you don't want to be putting objects up on them that you're going to need to get to. So surplus packing material, good item. It's like our lofts. It's why we put lofts in. I knew my footprint for my building size was going to be limited, so I made the walls taller so that I could have loft space. And in that loft space, we keep some inventory, and we keep items that we don't want underfoot in our garage, in our workshops, garden tools, that type of thing. It's what I emphasized in that other video. If you can build yourself a nice shed, and you can move the minutia of lawn care items and garden items and kayak paddles and life jackets, if you can get that all out of your attached garage or your spare room, and you can move that out into another place, maybe it's Christmas decorations and you only need them that one season a year, you can then take a more comfortable space, the extra bedroom for instance, and you can outfit it to be your reselling area. Or you can take your garage and you can take part of it or all of it, and you can insulate it, you can air condition it, you can paint it a nice color. And I have found that if the space you're working in feels confined, especially after you put in all the shelves and all the inventory, you'll avoid it. It'll be like going to work at a job in office cubicles, in an environment that is not conducive to feeling like you've achieved your goal of working for yourself as a reseller. And it's why when we built this smaller shop, you can almost see it right over here, we actually spent more money than we typically do. We gave it the epoxy painted floors, we gave it an interior wall surface, rose painted it a nice light green, kind of a whitewash green, and we put colorful cabinets in it. We put a refrigerator in there for cool drinks. I put a large screen TV in there that a friend of ours gave us. I've still got to do my internet connection. I've got one of those modular plug-in extenders in there right now, but it means I have to leave the door open if I want cell service in there. So we're going to extend the internet. So basically the idea is that if you've got open space, nice work tables, a comfortable chair, you've got your photo booth, you've got a TV to turn YouTube or your favorite sitcom on, it will be a comfortable work environment. And if you have a comfortable work environment, you will be more productive. That's a pretty good theory, because normally what we've done in the past is, you build the shell of the building, maybe you put in the insulation, maybe you don't. You set the furniture in because you don't have the time to finish it off before you've got to put in your shelves and get your inventory in. And it's not so pretty, it's not so comfortable. Not everything has to be pretty and comfortable, but your primary work area, it certainly helps if you can listen to your favorite music, listen to some YouTube in the background, maybe a podcast, listen to me. It just makes for a better working environment. And if you work with a partner, giving yourselves a shared space, but having your own desks and things, also important. everybody should feel like they've got a little bit of an area that's theirs. Okay, I'm going to get some more coffee, and I've already filmed the footage of the actual auction, so I'm going to intermix these two. I don't know whether I'll put all this in the front and then the auction, or whether I'll edit it up and intermix them together. Probably intermix them together with examples. I've pretty much got my editing software, the basics down. Hopefully you've seen an improvement in the quality of the sound and in the quality of the editing over the last 2 months since I started the channel. Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been 2 months. All right, so I lost my train of thought.